Anybody who has trauma or any issue, you're still responsible for learning about yourself, finding a way to get through it, and your partner can help you with that, but your partner can't do it.
When one of the partners in a relationship has a history of trauma, how can that affect the relationship, and is there something that in the relationship where the one partner can help the other?
Well, it's a really good question, and it's one that I'm excited to hear from all of you about. What I notice is a little different with a significant trauma, sexual or otherwise, is that so many times there's a kind of fantasy attached to it, that this wonderful person they're with is going to help them through it, and that's how they're finally going to heal. And I think that starts with fairy tales and the whole kiss from Prince Charming, make you better thing. And it's in romance novels, it's in romantic comedies even sometimes, and I've noticed sometimes it helps to spell it out for someone and say, you know what, I think you're looking to this person for something they're never, ever, ever going to be able to give you. I think even the most supportive, insightful, loving, caring partner.
Both men and women.
Yes, they cannot heal a trauma for the other person. And yet it is, I think sometimes it's a common fantasy that they will be able to do it.
I think it's true that you can't look to your partner to heal you, but I want to give some perspective because my wife was raised in a very traumatic environment, both physical and verbal abuse. And I think having the understanding on my part that a lot of her reactions come from that and aren't about me and aren't about what I'm doing, right? That helps a lot just in having that understanding, because then I can separate myself from what's going on here. And I can say, oh, okay, I don't need to take this personally because I realize where this comes from. This comes from somebody who was raised in an environment in which, you know, everything was at a level 10, and that's the way to get attention. And as well, I'll share this, that my wife made a request of me early on in our relationship when we were committed to each other. She said, anytime I ask, will you make a promise to me? And I realized I lost nothing in making this promise. She said, anytime she can say to me, will you say it? I'll say, I'm not going to leave you. I promise, I've made that commitment.
But she's not asking you to help her with the fear, no. And she's not making you responsible for her not to have the feeling. She owns the feeling, and she tells you, be a witness to me. And when I feel insecure or scared or vulnerable, reassure me. And she's asking it to you in a way where you have learned to separate. Once again, we're in the boundary conversation, so that you know that she's asking that from the place of her history, and you're more than happy to give it to her. That is the ideal version.
It really is.
And yes. This is sort of what I do with my clients. I talk about, because there's both mini trauma and major trauma, and I think all of us have suffered some form of trauma. And I talk about mine being kind of a mini trauma with my parents divorcing and some issues of growing up. And so I have what I call a sensitivity. I call them sensitivities with my clients of my husband leaving. And so he knows this, I've been able to share this, and so he's never, no matter how angry he's gotten with me, told me he's leaving, because he knows that would like send me over the edge. Now he did, for one of my major birthdays, plan a surprise party, and he was being secretive, and so I was starting to get anxious and agitated. He didn't realize that by doing that he was going to trigger that for me, but it's still my responsibility, just like with your wife or your clients, to deal with my own trauma, to deal with my feelings around it. Anybody who has trauma or any issue, you're still responsible for learning about yourself, finding a way to get through it, and your partner can help you with that, but your partner can't do it. And so it still is a personal responsibility. If I know about this, then I have to be willing to do the work, and that's where it gets tricky.
And we get distracted with our expectations, you know, because I think when we make those demands that, you know, you have to be there, and especially when we say, now you're my husband, you're my wife, so you are supposed to do this, you know, that's definitely a wrong approach, because then we're saying you can be your authentic self and tell me what you really feel, tell me what you really are able to give me in my experience, and tell me what you're not.
And a lot of our work is actually accompanying people for them to have that awareness and to learn to ask differently, from a place where they are actually able to receive the very thing they ask. Because when you're in the trauma, you tend to act it out in such a way that you get the very thing you expect to get, which is the opposite of the thing you really want.
That's exactly right.
So it sounds like what we're saying once again is take responsibility. Take responsibility on your side. Know what you need. Know that your partner can't solve those problems for you, that it's something you need to work on for yourself. But also be available to be authentic and ask for what you want. And whether your partner can give it to you or not, I think at least the asking really creates an openness in the communication.